In this video, we are going to start making use of the empty cases that we imported. So we're going to create a Niagara emitter and system that will pretty much be ejecting the cases for us. Well, that's going to is our case ejection. So what we're going to do is set it up for the STG44 first, create the Niagara emitter, and then the Niagara system off of that emitter, and we'll be good to go. So first off, let's open our STG folder, go to animations, and our file animation. And let's go ahead and go to wherever the bolt starts to open. So the bolt is fully open about here. So I'd imagine this is roughly when the extractor is going to yank the sucker out. So we're going to place our emitter right at about at the start of here, where this time jigger is. Now let's go ahead and create our Niagara system. We're going to go to Weapons, Weapon Effects. We're going to do this in bullet cases, and in the root of it, we're going to create the emitter. So we're going to right-click, FX, Niagara emitter, new emitter from template, and we're going to select empty. So let's give this a name of any underscore case eject, and open it up. So currently there's just literally nothing going on. So we need to fix that and set it up. So first thing, we want to actually have some particles spawning. So under emitter update, press the plus sign, go to spawning, and we're going to select spawn burst instantaneous. We're going to select that. Then we're going to have a spawn count of 1. So as you can see, here's the initial particle. Now it's nothing really special, but it's just because it's the sprite renderer. So if we were to right click and delete it, it's gone. So we want to go to render, hit the plus. We're going to add a mesh renderer instead and click it. Then we're going to select our 8mm case. As you can see, now we have our 8mm case spawned as part of the particle system. So that's great. We have it spawned, yada, yada, yada. Well, I want to use this time because we currently do not have any, physics or anything added to it. So what I'm going to do is create the Niagara system off of it. I want to right click, create Niagara system. I'm probably pronouncing that incorrectly. And I want to rename it to ns underscore case eject underscore 8mm. I'm going to drag it into our 8mm folder right here. So now in our STG44 fire, what we're going to do is we're going to right click, add a notify. We're going to play a Niagara particle effect and line it up right there. Then for this, what we're going to do is we're going to select the one we just made. So now if I swipe over, it'll spawn it probably in the root. But as you can see, we have a socket name right here. So we can attach the emitter to the socket. So what we're going to do is we're going to create a new socket off of the root because we don't actually have one necessarily. So we have the root. We're going to right click, add socket, and let's name it S underscore case eject. And we're going to click on the emitter again and set that for the bone name. Okay. And let's go ahead and save it. So now we should have, now we need to actually move it. So we have the case eject. Let's go ahead and just get it lined up pretty much straight here. That's rotated entirely the wrong way, I think. 90. Yeah, now we should be good. Here you can actually see the case. It's attached to it. It just keeps spawning more and more with our current system, but you can ignore it. So we want to just position it roughly where we want it to spawn. I want to make some changes here real quick, like to the lifetime, for example. So the lifetime here, we're going to set that to 1 second. Now that should despawn a bit quicker. We're going to have it be about, let's go back and up. Go out just a little bit. So here's where we want the socket or the shell to spawn. We can see its rotation, everything like that. And I want to set its rotation be completely vertical. So we're to go up by 90. And nope, I was actually correct the other way. So we have the socket where we want it. Now let's go back to our emitter. So here we're going to add couple different things. So under particle update, we're gonna hit the plus. Just simply search for gravity force, and you'll probably get this little issue here. Just hit fix issue, and it handles it for us. So all this is doing is adding some gravity. So if I hit save and go back to it, I will see the case falling. So that's great. Now we want to add a little bit of an impulse to kind of give it the effect that it's actually ejecting, and we want to do that on the spawn, not the update. If we do it on the particle update, what's going to happen is it's going to keep having that force applied to it, so it's just going to be like a linear force, so it's going to keep going in the direction we tell it to. We're going to go to particle spawn, hit the plus sign, and search for velocity. We're going to hit add velocity. We're going to go negative 100. Okay, so that pushed it out a little bit. We want to make it go up, so let's go up 100. That'll work. And let's go forward by, what, 50? I think that'll be okay. Now let's look at it. Okay, so it's still kind of shooting straight down. So I think what we need to do is adjust the angle a little bit. So it's shooting kind of back and down. Out of curiosity, let's change this to 500 and just see what it looks like. It's shooting straight back. So we're going to do negative. So negative 50. Now it's shooting a little bit forwards. We can go a little bit more. So we're going to go negative 100. And all I'm doing to play these effects is I'm moving the timeline around. So now it's ejecting forwards. That's great. Now we want to kind of just go up a little bit. So let's change this up to 200 on the Z. Still shooting straight down. Out of curiosity, if we do negative 200, does it go up? Yes, it does. So what I'm questioning is, this should be the Z, for the local, I believe. So what I'm going to do, I want to rotate this to match, so rotate it by 180. Like so. Now it's going to be ejecting pretty much straight down. I'm going to change this back to 200, so that way it's positive going up. And it's going the wrong direction, so we need to change this to 100, just like before. Or not. Oh wait, 100 on the other value, my bad. Okay, so now it's shooting up and out. We're going to change the Y back to negative 100. That was my stupidity. And we now have it shooting up and forwards, like so. So I'm going to go ahead and hit save, and let's look at it. So I'm going to fire. Let's see. I fired once, but cases are still spawning. We don't want that. Well, obviously. Let's click on this whole thingy here. We're going to change the loop behavior to once, which I really thought I already did, and save it. Make sure to, yeah, we're going to leave everything else for now. And now when we shoot, it's only going to fire once. It's only going to do one per shot. So if I full auto, you can see as intended. One problem is the cases don't have any real collision to them. They're just kind of going straight through the ground. So we can actually change that. So if we go over here to, let's see, this would be particle update. So let's check particle spawn, see what happens. No collision, kind of figured. So particle update, hit the plus, search for collision. Again, hit fix issue, collision enabled, and everything's, I'm going to leave default for now and check it out. One thing I do want to change, if we click out here, change the loop duration to, let's do, will be decent. Let's do 5 seconds for everything. So that way the cases will stay alive longer. And let's try it. So shoot. And there's our case. So it kind of bounces along. shoot onto the angled surface. Not entirely sure where that went. And you can see it bounces off walls and everything like that just fine. And after 5 seconds, it'll clean itself up. I'm not too fond with how bouncy it is, so I'm going to lower that just a bit so we can click on collision down here. Go down to our restitution, change that to like 0.4. And I want to slightly increase the friction so it's not sliding quite as much. So when I go to point, just go 0.35. So we'll go up by 10 and look at it. And there they all are. Well, you can see there's also slight variations in where and stuff like that. But I'm pretty happy with that. The only thing I want to change is how far out it goes. We're going to go to our add velocity and change this from 100. Let's do 300. So it goes out. As you can see, this kind of shoots probably a little too far, so I'm going to knock it down to 250 and increase this to negative 150 on the Y. Hit save. And there we go. We now have our bullet cases and they collide with everything, so I can ricochet off this wall and all that kind of stuff, and we'll just have cases kinda everywhere. And over X seconds, they will get cleaned up nicely. So I'd say I'm pretty happy with how this is right now. I think I want to leave everything as is, so I can go ahead and close it. And now we have our 8mm set up. So now the only thing we need to do is if we want to add it somewhere else, we can do so very easily using the Niagara system. Let's see, how long have I been going on? 12 minutes. Okay. Go to weapon effects, bullet cases, 8mm. We're going to simply take this Niagara emitter, copy it, paste it into our 45 auto, and rename it to 45. Now when we open it, we can go to this little guy here. Well, we don't really have anything exposed to it. But for example, if I change this to, just so you can really see it, I'll change it to the 12 gauge. So it's playing the correct one there, and now it's playing the 12 gauge case if I were to change it over. So let's say I change this to 45, see the 12 gauge shell gets ejected. So it's purely based off of the Niagara system. Now it's back to our 8mm cases. So we're going to change this one to 45, empty case, and save it. I do the same thing for the 12 gauge, well, the 30 carbine and the 12 gauge. So I did not mean to copy it again. I rename this one to 12G. Open it up. Rename 30 carbine to 30 carbine. So for the 30 carbine, we're just going to simply click on the mesh renderer, change the empty case to the 30 carbine empty case, save it, close it. 12 gauge, we're going to do the same thing, but for the 12 gauge. So 12G empty case, save it, close it. So now we can go to our, we'll do the M1 carbine, animations, go to where we bolt locks about to the rear. I'm actually going to do it about, so out of curiosity, I'm just going to start doing it a little earlier. We can easily adjust the timing. So we're going to add a notify, play Niagara particle effect. Just kind of go about in here. We're going to select the 30 carbine. Now we need to, again, create the bone socket, or the socket. So I want to go and see what I name the other one. So S_case eject. Do the same thing, go to root, add socket, S_case eject. Click on our Niagara system. Change the bone name to S_case eject. And we're going to move it. First, we got to rotate. So let's get it about vertical. Close enough for now. We got to do some rotating. And there it goes. It's shooting forward and out. I'm going to do it probably about partway through. So I'm going to go and open up our player blueprint class, change over to the M1 carbine, and just see what happens. So for this, I'd rather have the cases kind of shoot a little bit more out the front, so we can easily make those little, mini adjustments. Go to our weapon effects, 30 carbine, open up the Niagara system. We can simply change the velocity. So we're going to go for the Y, we're going to go negative 200, and we're going to make it go out, not quite as far. So we're going to do about 180 on the X. And look at it. That's going pretty far forward, probably a little too much, but I'm happy with how far it's going out to the right. So we're going to change this to go about negative 150 forward, and I think that's going to be good. Yep, I'm pretty happy with that. We do the same kind of things for dropping magazines and stuff like that out of the gun as well, if we wanted to. So like if we dropped an empty mag and stuff, this is kind of the same way how you would set that up. So now we have our 30 carbine good to go. Let's do our 1911. That'll be the last one, so we go to animations. I'm gonna go ahead and select the 1911 and a character blueprint. Let's open fire. And we need to set a socket. So off the root, I'm going to add socket. It's going to be S. Actually, I already have it copied. We're going to move it up to about the ejection port. Let me rotate it. About there. We're going to right click, add a Niagara particle effect again. And this one's going to be for the 45. So as you can see, it's not in the greatest direction, so we're going to rotate it around. Actually, I just realized I'm not attaching it to the socket. So make sure you set it to the socket. Right, so we're going to rotate it 90 degrees. And there we go. It's shooting up and out. That looks like it is using the wrong case. Nope, it's using the right one. Wait for it to land. Yeah, it's using the right case. So that's working pretty well. Let's go ahead and see what it looks like. So that's going way too far forwards. We need to go more out to the right and not as far forwards. So we're going to open up that Niagara system for the 45. Go to add velocity. We're going to increase this to 300 and change this to negative 50 on the Y. Okay, that did not change. That did kind of the opposite of what I wanted. So I might have to still rotate the socket around. We should be going farther right. Let's see, 90. I'll just keep it there, I guess. Let's change this to 500 and just see what it does. That's going completely straight up now, so we need to rotate, actually, I think, just our angles off a bit of that socket. So I'm going to set the Z to 0. That way I can see which direction it's firing. And we want it to go straight. That's about straight out. Then we're going to add 200 to the Z. All right, make that 500. It's like the Z-axis is not affecting it at all. So I'm going to set U to 0, U to 0. So I am rotated kind of completely off then. So I want to set the Z to 0, and same thing with the gravity. I'm just going to set the Z to 0. So that way I can spawn it and look at it. So the case is at the right direction. Revert gravity back to normal. Ball straight. Add velocity. 200 on the Z. So I think it's related mostly just to our kind of our socket. So what I'm going to do here is we're going to make some adjustments. So let's see, what's the Y going to do? So the Y is kind of our Z in this case, and the X is kind of our right. So I'm going to set 250 to the X, which is good. See how far forwards it's going. Going way too far forwards. So for the Z, we're going to set that back down to 50. Now it's going more out to the right. Now I want it to go up more, so we're going to go to the Y. We're going to go, let's see, 250. Lower the velocity on the X down to 150. That should be a compromise. Nope, that's going to the right now. Wait, 150 or negative 150? 150 I meant. So now it's going more vertical. So let's see what that looks like. And I'm pretty happy with that. So we now have our cases and stuff like that getting ejected. I'm kind of curious what they're going to do down the stairs. It'll just kind of bounce around. But the game is slowly starting to come to life. So we now have our Niagara system, and honestly, I kind of encourage you to take it a little bit farther if you wanted to. We go to our original emitter under our particle spawn. If you search for rotation, you can kind of add a rotational velocity, so that way it kind of gives it that kick. So I'll try to show you. Let me fix that. Try to zoom in on the case. So I'm going to make some quick little changes here. So adding the velocity, I'm going to do 0 it out. Same thing with the gravity, I'm going to 0 that out. So here it stays. Then we go to add a rotational velocity. Let's do 10. 10, 10, 10. Put that actually to local mesh. Should be rotating. Oh well. But anyways, this is something that you could tinker with. Add some rotation to the case so as it gets ejected, it will kind of almost have that little kick effect. It's not going to stay completely flat and horizontal. It's going to actually just make it more believable because, cases don't eject perfectly. So I'm just going to go ahead and remove this rotation velocity addition and just kind of revert this back. So like 100, negative, I don't know, 50, 200, something like that, and just re-enable gravity and save it because everything else is already set. So anyways, we now have our setup for our case ejection. And that's great because this is going to be heavily used for our shotgun. So we're going to try to make that one look really pretty whenever it gets finished. But yeah, we are pretty much good to go here. So now that that's out of the way, I will see you in the next one.